With the combine wrapping up, it's only right we bring in Frangie. He made the trip up to Indianapolis, and now he's so kind as join us here on the Sunday Sports Zone. Frank, how was the trip up to Indy? I know it looked like you had some fun up there.
It was cold, like the 18 degrees, I think was the real feel, but it was all indoors. It's always good to get up there, though, Jamal. You get around people in the league, you get around other play-by-play guys, you get an opportunity to, I had one-on-one interviews with both Doug and Trent, where they really kind of tell you kind of where their head is. So it's always a good trip there for about 4 days. I was glad of them.
All right, you started to touch on it. The question that everybody wants to know is where are Doug Pederson and Trent Baalke's heads right now? Not the end to the season that they wanted to see, that anybody, I guess, wanted to see. You got a chance to sit down with each of them one-on-one. What kind of vibes could you get from the general manager and the head coach?
I think there were two things, Jamal. Number one, everybody wants to know what went wrong. The team was 8-3, playing so well, then all of a sudden, the bad ending, losing 5 out of 6. I think Doug said, listen, we're all trying to put our finger on that. It's not one thing. We know it didn't end the way we wanted to, and we talked about that with both Doug and Trent. But more importantly, you can't change that, is where are you now? Where is this team now? Where do they believe they are? And look, Jamal, I think, I've been saying this, they've got a good team. They've had back-to-back winning seasons. They had a bunch of injuries last year. I thought the Christian Kirk injury was so damaging. Zay Jones, Trevor played her whole year. Cam Robinson missed half the season with a suspension and an injury. And that's not an excuse, but I think they realize the point I'm making is they have a pretty good team. They have a great team. They've got to fill some holes, but this isn't a team that left in their 2 or 3 wins and is trying to explain to people all the work they've got to get done. They've got to replace some guys, but I think they feel like they've got a pretty good team. I think that's where Doug is. I think that's where Trent is. And frankly, I think that's where the league is when they look at the Jaguars. I really do.
All right, you say that's where the league is. The combine is a kind of a meeting of the minds. All 32 teams are in one spot. You can kind of start to get some of those vibe checks around the league of what other teams are thinking and viewing about your team when you're up there. What are some of the things you heard about the Jaguars? Are teams really still high on where the Jags are at right now?
I don't think anybody believes that this thing has collapsed. They know there's some problems. Everybody knows the Jags are disappointed and they had a bad ending. But I think people believe it's a pretty good team. The one thing that came out of there, Jamal, is it's a pretty good division. This might be the best the AFC South has been collectively since it's been in division. I really believe that. Think about this. The Texans certainly found themselves. They've got their quarterback of the future, their coach of the future. The Jags have their quarterback. Regardless of the injuries last year, Trevor Lawrence is a good player, and they've got a Super Bowl winning coach. I think the Colts really did good work last year. They almost made the playoff. A bad throw at the end by Gardner Minshew and a dropped pass, or they beat the Texans, so they like where they are. And Anthony Richardson barely played. And even the Titans. The Titans are the newest team. They've got Brian Callahan as a new coach, but they like Will Levis. So it's 4 young quarterbacks in a division that feels upwardly mobile. So I think that more than anything else, in terms of how people feel about the Jaguars and about the division, there really was some positivity about both. I really believe that.
Positivity. Hey, everybody likes a little bit of positive energy rolling around, especially after a little bit of a late season collapse. So some positive energy for the Jaguars fans. Let's talk about the league as a whole, Frank. The NFL owners meetings are right around the corner, and this year there are a few rule changes that are on the table for teams. Do you kind of start getting the sense that there might be some big changes on the way to the game?
I really do, Jamal. I think there's 2 things that are really going to jump off the page for everybody. Number one, they're going to dial back intentional grounding. More quarterbacks than ever got hurt. It's because grounding is being called so much now that quarterbacks are holding the ball a little extra time not to ground the ball if they're getting hit too much. Quarterbacks getting injured, a lot of people believe, is a direct product of them calling intentional grounding as much as they're calling it. So I think you're going to see that rule change a little bit, that you can ground it either when you haven't left the tackle box. And I think you're going to see a massive change there. Far fewer grounding penalties are going to be called. The other thing's kickoffs. I think they're going to go to that XFL, USFL kickoff where both lines are like 5 yards apart, so there's not as many collisions. But now a touchback will bring the ball out to the 35-yard line, not the 25. They're trying to put the kickoff back in play, make it less dangerous, but have more teams returning kickoffs. Well, look, that's good news for the Jaguars, because I think the Jaguars and Jamal Agnew have one of the best kick returners in the league. So if there's more kick return, that helps our team. But I also believe we're going to go there. So 2 things I think you're going to see. Change in the intentional grounding rule. I don't think you're going to see it called much anymore. And I think you're going to see a change in the kickoff where there will be more kickoffs and fewer touchbacks. Those are the 2 big things. All the buzz, everybody I was around in Indianapolis was talking about those 2 rules.
Yeah, the new kickoffs will definitely be interesting to see. Jamal Agnew is a free agent, but if he's back in Jacksonville, that's good news for the Jaguars because anything that gets teams returning kicks, every time Agnew touches the ball, fans know, look, that's like lightning in a bottle. All right, Frank, for our college football fans here, Gators fans, Florida State Seminoles fans, there were a lot of players from both of those schools that got invited to the Combine, and they put on a show. A couple of the guys that immediately jumped off the page, Braden Fisk from Florida State, Jared Verse from Florida State, and of course, Ricky Pederson, the wide receiver from Florida. All of those guys had big weeks.
Jamal, I think the talk of the combine was those FSU guys because there were so many of them. The Loach shows up and looks like one of the best linebackers. Fisk, you talked about it. He was so athletic as an inside defensive tackle. Jared Verse, you knew about it. He won everybody over with how positive he was. If the Jordan Travis talk, he couldn't work out yet, but people fell in love with him. Trent Benson really ran. So I think the talk of the combine was how many good Florida State players, 12 players there now, and they all looked the part, man. It's such a shame Travis got hurt and they didn't get to play the playoffs, because who knows? They might have won the whole doggone thing. I think that was so collectively, all those FSU guys, man, and individually, Ricky Pearsall stole the show. The former Florida receiver, slot receiver, he's fast enough to play outside. He's got great verticality. He can get off the ground. He's got great hands. Everybody was buzzing about Pearsall's workout. Not a lot of Gators, but they were certainly buzzing about him. But I think all the FSU players there, and I know I'm the Georgia players, they're loaded again at the combine, and the play of Ricky Pearsall individually. Jamal, everybody was talking about that.
Yeah, a lot of Florida State fans are pointing and saying, see, we told you we had a shot. Too bad they never got a chance to get it. So we'll see what's in the future for the Florida State Seminoles. All right, Frank, before I let you go, franchise tag deadline is set for Tuesday. The Jaguars have some big question marks going in. Everybody's kind of expecting at this point it's Josh Allen unless they find a way to get that long-term deal done. But the other kind of domino that's involved in that is Calvin Ridley. He's going to be a hot commodity as a free agent if the Jaguars can't find a way to get a deal done before free agency starts. But the extra layer to that is if you get a deal done with Ridley, then you owe an extra draft pick, that second-round pick instead of a third-round pick. So some big decisions on tap for the Jaguars before Tuesday.
Here's where I see it going. I think we all hope that Josh would sign an extension and then the franchise tag would be available to be used on Calvin Ridley. I think that's where everybody kind of hoped it would land. It does, and I don't know. I have no insight on that tomorrow, but it doesn't look like with a day or two ago that's going to happen. I hope it does. If not, Josh Allen is going to get the franchise tag. I don't think he'll play under it. I think they'll have a deal done before the season. You still can negotiate till July, obviously. Evan Ingram had the tag for a while, and then they got the extension done. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. And I also wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of arrangement with Calvin Ridley. Listen, we can't use the tag on you because it's on Josh. I think Calvin, like Josh, wants to play in Jacksonville. I don't think he wants to learn a new quarterback, a new group of receivers, a new offense, a new terminology. Look, he lost 2 years. The clock's ticking a little bit. I don't think Calvin wants to go somewhere else. There can be a gentleman's agreement. I don't think they're going to sign him, like you said, beforehand. You give up the second-round pick. But you can sign him right after the league year starts, and you don't have to give up that second-rounder. You can have a gentleman's agreement. That's not breaking any rules. I would not be surprised to say that. Jamal, I think both players are going to be on the Jaguars next year. I think Josh Allen's going to be here one way or another. I think Calvin Ridley is too. That's my guess.
That would definitely be good news for the team since both of them are really good football players. All right, Frank, thanks for joining us here in the Sports Zone.